Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and I am finally here with what I think is the last kind of year wrap-up video for 2022. Yeah, I know, I'm still doing these, but I think I have some ideas for how to hopefully avoid being, I don't know, just having them this spread out next year, but we'll see. Today I'm going to be talking very briefly about my all-around favorites. So I've done videos for a bunch of different genres and different like kind of categories of books. I will link that playlist down below. And now I'm just going to hit on kind of like my top favorites, the best of the best, just because I think that is also interesting, and I also think it's interesting to see how certain genres can kind of get grouped together. Like, you know, fantasy is one of my favorite genres, so it makes sense that I tend to have a lot of fantasy like higher up on the list, but I thought this would be fun. And also because I have already talked about all of these books, like by definition they were in other favorites videos I've already done, I'm just gonna do like really rapid fire style. So I'm gonna put a timer on for myself. I'm gonna be talking about my 14 favorite books, and I also think they are kind of representative of different aspects of my reading taste or my reading year, which I think is fun. But yeah, I'm gonna put a timer on for, I'm gonna say like 15 minutes. That's like barely more than a minute per book, and we're gonna see if I can actually do a concise video. I think I should be able to, because I've like already talked about these. So yeah, if you want details, go to those other videos. This is just gonna be like kind of a roundup of my top favorites. Enough introducing, let's go. I'm starting the timer. Number 14 on my list is Playing the Cards You're Dealt by Varian Johnson. This is a contemporary for middle grade readers that deals with toxic masculinity, and I love that. Great writing, great characterization. I loved the relationships. I loved the complexity in these like family and friend dynamics, and also the nuance that these themes in relationships are handled with, and I just thought it was great. Number 13 is another middle grade contemporary. That is Ivelisse Explains It All by Andrea Beatriz Arango, and the illustrator I'll put in captions. This is a novel in verse, and it is absolutely beautiful. I cried while reading it. It's just, it deals with trauma and grief and depression and a lot of these really difficult topics that we don't always think of young kids as going through, but some do, unfortunately. And so I think it's really important that we have books like this. But even reading this as an adult and as somebody who doesn't have the exact same things going on that Ivelisse does, it still meant a lot to me, so I can only imagine how much it means to like kids, you know. Number 12 is A Kind of Spark by Elle McNichol, another middle grade contemporary. I didn't realize that I had 3 in a row. This follows a young girl who is autistic, and she becomes determined to get her town in Scotland to build some kind of monument to these women who hundreds of years ago the town burned as witches. Like, they executed them after accusing them as witches. Our main character feels a real connection to these women because of the way that they were viewed as different and the way that that led people to treat them badly. But also, it's not just because she feels a connection to them. Our main character is such a wonderfully like loving and empathetic person that she truly doesn't understand how people could be indifferent to this. Yeah, just this is wonderful. I love our main character. This book has so much heart and love, and I think it also does a great job of introducing readers to the way that autism might express in some kids, although obviously every person is different. Number 11, This Is How We Fly by Anna Mariano. This is another contemporary, but it's a young adult contemporary, and it's a very loose Cinderella retelling, sort of. It's more like fun to pick up on references to it than a straight up retelling. But yeah, I love this. I adore our main character. I just love Anna Mariano as an author, the way that she writes characters and relationships. This is another one that I think deals with really complex family dynamics in really interesting ways. I think this also captures the messiness and the stress of being a like graduating high schooler. Like, I just think it did that really well. Number 10 is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is a very short fantasy novel that I think that does so much in its pages. It's feminist, it's funny, it's very creepy in points, and as always with T. Kingfisher, I love her writing style, and I love the believable like quirkiness or interestingness of her characters. Number 9, I have A Darkness at the Door by Intisar Kanani. I love this main character with my heart and soul, so it was really wonderful to read another book following her. There's a great development of the romance here. I've mentioned before how I'm a hard sell on books that follow later stages of a romance. Like, I just don't find it as interesting as the like getting together part, but this one pretty much held my attention, which I think is very impressive. And I also think that the themes about making difficult choices and taking care of people are really, really beautiful. Number 8 is Unraveler by Frances Hardinge. This is Frances Hardinge's newest book that is currently out, and I think it's fascinating. It deals with, it's in a fantasy world where anybody has the power to cast a curse if these certain circumstances are fulfilled, but only one person can unravel them, and that is one of our 2 main characters, and this ends up getting them in a lot of trouble. And I just think this is such an interesting like structure for a story, because it almost feels like little mini mysteries, because as these characters go around trying to unravel these curses and figure out what's going on, the way they do that is by understanding why the curse happened, and so it's just super interesting. This is another one where I love the story itself, but I also really love like the thematic underpinnings to it. And again, I always love Frances Hardinge's writing style. It's the perfect amount of creativity and like dark whimsy, but also like heart and like humor and cleverness. I just love it. Like very understated humor, but definitely there. Number 7 is A Single Thread of Moonlight by Laura Wood. This is just like, her books just feel cozy to me, even though they have some bad things happen and they do touch on more serious topics of the era. This is another very like vaguely Cinderella flavored story, and I just really, really loved the romance here. I loved seeing the way that this is a take on the Cinderella story. I love the use of like fashion. I also love that this has some of my favorite romance tropes in it. And I also think that plot-wise, this one really gripped me, and I think it says really interesting things about how much we know the people that we care about. And then number 6 is The War I Finally Won by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This is the finale to a duology. Yeah, like I was expecting it to be fantastic and I was expecting it to be emotional, but it was even more of those things than I expected. I absolutely see why this is a favorite series for people. It really just got to me in ways that, again, like I kind of expected, and yet it still hit harder than I thought. Number 5 is Gilded Ashes by Rosamund Hodge. This is a fantasy novella, also a Cinderella retelling. This is the year of Cinderella retellings, I guess. I love Rosamund Hodge. Like, her writing just clicks with me so perfectly, and it's kind of hard to explain why. Like, I love the way that she writes. I think that she can sell me on characters and dynamics that I would be more of a hard sell on from other authors, and she also just does messy sister relationships in a way that absolutely kicks me in the chest every time, and I love it. Also, considering this is a novella, the fact that the romance felt so engaging and well developed, I think is extra impressive. Also, this is a very fascinating world. Number 4 is So This Is Christmas by Jenny Holiday. This is a contemporary romance, an adult romance, that is set around Christmas time. It also follows a main character named Kara, which, you know, is very cool. I love this. Like, this is, I think, one of the most successful kind of outings I've had with the romance genre. This is just like a lot of tropes that I enjoy because it's hate to love, but it's not like nastiness, and also just very, very competent characters and just like finding that attractive in each other. I love that. And I also like that these characters are both really close to their family. I loved the cozy like Christmas setting, and also I think it's cool that this is a royalty adjacent romance, because I'm not a fan of like regular royal romances, but the fact that like the male lead in this one is basically like the right-hand man of the crown, I think is way cooler. Number 3 is The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have a whole video on this one, so obviously I loved it. This just, like, the romantic tension, the yearning, the emotions, the messiness, but in like a way that feels believable and not like, I don't know, not frustrating. And I say this every time I bring up this author, but Silvia Moreno Garcia can write unpleasant characters or frustrating characters in ways that are not unpleasant or frustrating to read, you know? Like, one of the 3 point of views here is I have big issues with her, but I still am engaged in her story, and I think that's very impressive. Number 2 is Redemptor by Jordan A. Fuego. Yeah, this is another finale to a duology. This is an all-time favorite series for me. I say all the time that I think this is a great example of how authors can do so much incredible world building and character development and thematic development, and like interesting relationships and like plot and, you know, story and all of these different things in just a couple books. I think that's amazing. I want Jordan A. Fuego to just write a zillion more things, please and thank you. And finally, number 1, my favorite book that I read in 2022 is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bully. I did not expect a contemporary slash mystery thriller to be my favorite book, but here we are. Everyone who told me I would love this book is 100% correct, obviously. I love Donna's, our main character, so much. I have said before that she's in that category of protagonists where I just want to aspire to be a good enough person that Donna's would be friends with me, you know? And I loved the focus on culture here and the way that Donna's, like, she is in a sort of in-between space because she is biracial and other people kind of treat her certain ways because of that, but it's not about her, like, struggling with her background or anything. Like, she feels so deeply connected to her native family and her native traditions, and I think that is incredibly beautiful. I also found the mystery element of this one so gripping. Like, I quite literally could not put this book down. Like, I was like planning to just read a little bit more, and then it's like 400 pages in or something, or 300. I just found it very engaging. Like, this book just is so beautifully done, and I think it is a really amazingly balanced story in terms of like the setting and the characterization and the relationships and the mystery and all of these different pieces coming together. Like, I just think this is an absolute masterpiece. I'm so excited to read everything that Angeline Boulley writes in the future, because this was just absolutely incredible. And like I've mentioned before, I'm not really drawn to mystery thrillers usually, but this one is just, like, even if you are also not drawn to those, I feel like you could still really enjoy this one, because it is a brilliant execution of that genre, but it also does a lot of other things, and I cannot recommend it enough. I feel like a lot of people have been recommending it. And in case you needed another kind of push to read it, I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I read like 300 books last year or something like that, something wild, and Firekeeper's Daughter was my ultimate favorite. Okay, so I talked ridiculously fast, but I did finish with 4 minutes left on my timer. So yeah, those are the 14 like top books that I read last year. Although, as I always say, when you're talking about favorites lists, like even the ones that are lower on the list, or even the ones that like didn't quite make this like best of the best list, they're still incredible books, you know? And also, as I always say, these rankings can probably change day to day, although I'm pretty firm about some of them. But anyway, let me know if you were surprised at which ones made it onto this list. Let me know if you were surprised about like what my top favorite was, or my first few favorites. And I am really planning and hoping that I will be able to do things in a way where we are not still doing end of year content when the year's almost over for 2023. Here's hoping. I believe in myself, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!